know when you're all set, Patrick. Okay. So you've already called everything to order. We're now going to review our collection policy. See, how is this going to work today? Is it easy just for you to go ahead and when we go into each of the items, just look back over here?
Yep, and Susan actually is going to start with the collection policy this evening, so we'll turn it over to Susan.
Rosario here, who are our accounts receivable coordinator, just in case we have any questions, and Rachel, of course, is here as well. But our current policy, right now, as it stands, is really made up of two policies. It's made up of our collection policy that was established in 2010, and then we did a board resolution when the law changed last year. It was in August of last year, so that the board now approves those intent to liens before we, CCMC, prepares the intent to liens. So your first flow chart that says the current process, it's what we do today based on the policy that we had. And this arose, let me just say, because I believe it was in a president's meeting. We talked about, wow, that first letter that someone gets is an intent to lien. And it's kind of harsh. It says, we're going to lien your house. You haven't paid your debts. And so that's what led us to examining the policy. So if we look at what we currently have, the assessments are due on the 1st of the month and late after the 30th. So it's January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. We send out invoices or statements approximately 30 days before the 1st of the month when they're due. And they're sent by U.S. mail, and if the homeowner signs up for electronic receipt of those, they get them electronically. So that's day one. I classify that as day one. So 30 days later, on the 31st day, the assessments are past due and late fees and interest are posted, usually within 2 or 3 days after the end of the month, because it takes time to get that done. And then, now, we used to, on day 35-ish, we would send that intent to lien. Now we have to wait until we have the board meeting, and it's usually the February, the May, the August and November board meetings when we're sending out the intent to lien letters. So right now it's happening about the 51st day after the assessment was due. And the ITLs by statute are required to be sent by regular mail, by certified mail to both the property address and any alternate addresses we have. I think we call them billing addresses here. So at that point in time, on the 96th day then, we get to the amenities are suspended because by statute we're allowed to suspend amenities after 90 days. And Melissa sends out a last chance email. And that last chance email basically says, we're fixing to turn your account over to the attorney. This is 45 days by statute that they have after that intent to lien. And just contact us and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that it doesn't go to the attorney because it's expensive. So 7 days after the last chance email, it goes to the attorney. So that's the current process. I believe, and most associations, send, if you look on the next page, we're going to talk, would anybody like to talk about the process as it stands? I'll ask you that first.
I'm not sure where we're sending them out 30 days prior.
They should go out right about 30 days
I'm
prior.
not receiving 30 days prior.
Well, how far are you receiving it?
Probably about 7 to 10 days in front of the
Correct.
quarter.
Okay, well, I will
The initial
follow up.
statement?
Yes.
Because we have it to, our shared service facilitates this for us. And so we have it to them 20 days before that 10 days before that 30th day. So they're due to the shared service center, everything that's going in those coupon books or in those statements are due.
I understand what you're saying, but I just look at my own Quicken thing where I look and see where my
Yeah.
check register is. When I send the check in on the 24th, which is exactly the day I received the thing, so I don't think people are getting in the time and state they're getting it.
You're talking about the one that's
30 days
that's
prior.
due, but it's due July 1st technically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I get my somewhere after the 20th, probably closer to the 24th, because
Okay.
I took a few days, and it was like, gosh, I better pay this. Why, I was thinking I got to it real late.
Mhm.
But it's not late until July 31st.
Exactly.
But-
I would say we're not setting up 30 days prior.
So we're actually getting them 10 days before they're due,
Okay.
not 30 days.
So when you guys say 10 days due, you're saying June 24th then, right?
Yeah.
If they're due July 31st, so you're getting them the month prior to, okay.
Yeah.
And so I can back that up from our end so that you get them more like 30 days. I mean, ultimately, that's what I would like. I don't want you receiving personally, this is Susan Kearns, not CCMC, but I don't want you getting it during the holiday rush at Christmas, your statement for January, because it's gonna get lost in the mail or whatever. So I want you to get it, after Thanksgiving, but before the holiday rush. So we'll work with the Shared Service Center to make sure that timing is better.
Yeah, so I remember that's usually a 1 month that we usually have a pretty lengthy list, isn't it?
Well, it seems
Like
like
in
every
December.
month, now, every quarter now, we've been adding these intent to liens with 230 to 250 letters.
Yep,
And
on the
that's
bottom.
But that's always the way it was. We just didn't know it because the intent to liens went out without
Exactly.
approval, correct?
Right.
Has our percentage of intent to leads changed? Did you do a percentage analysis going back the last year or two?
Well, that poses a little bit of a challenge. We send the intent to liens out through LetterStream as the name of the program, and we can tell you how many letters go out, but not how many addresses they tie to. Until we started getting approval, it's really hard for us to go back. We probably can, it'll just take some time.
So your prior board packets, say from 1 year ago, wouldn't have a listing in there for intent to lien at all?
No, no.
They just started in August, right?
August,
Yeah.
right.
July 1, January.
Right. And then we had the resolution made up and approved in August.
Right.
For me, it is confusing because it is different than, most of the bills that I get, I usually get it, say, the 7th of the month, and then it will say due by the end of the month.
Correct.
Or if you don't pay by then you will start paying, a fine and late fees. This one, it comes 10 days before it's due, but it's due, but then you have another month before you pay any penalties and fees. So,
Right.
For a lot of people, if you get the pattern of how you pay your bills, this is very different than what other bills are.
True.
Let me ask you too, I think more and more people are going to where it's like, I should do the, online or whatever, but, most of my bills will come up and I used to, in the old days, I would sit there and like first of the month and 50th of the month, I write my checks, right? So now, as soon as the bill comes up, I pay it because I can then designate, say it's due July 30th, I'll pay, July 29th. So I'll designate July 29th.
Right.
It may be July 3rd, and I'll designate July 29th. But, I think, and maybe I'm abnormal, but I think more people are getting that where they're online, they sit there and say, as soon as the bill comes up, I'm going to pay it, but it doesn't go out of my account until it's due.
Right.
I'm just thinking in terms of ways to get more consistency, and we're doing stuff that I think is different than what people do with all their other bills.
But if we get the invoice in people's hands quicker, I think, or earlier, I think it'll help them at least establish some kind of a
Yeah,
precedent.
By the time you get to be 30 days late, they've had it for 50
60
days
days,
at
yeah.
that point.
Well,
At that
sometimes you
point,
lose
so
those
just
bills.
saying, like for me, and you said 10 days, I said 7 days, what I had it prior to, and I'm thinking, let's do the first, and better get this thing in. Okay, well, not everybody's around for with a week to, somebody maybe on vacation or something.
I look at it as like, I'm going to take every day until I have to pay the penalty or fee.
You hold on to your money until you have to release it, yeah.
But the nice thing is if you can designate the date,
Right.
then, it's automatic, you do it, and you delete that.
And what we don't want to see happen is people say, oh, I have till the 31st of the month of July to get it in, so I'll just wait till the 30th to have it put in instead of the due date.
So I guess for the sake of simplicity, are there concerns? I don't know that we've heard a specific concern that you want addressed. Are you saying that you want to change when the bills go out?
I'd like to see those go out, and I agree with their basic change from day 35 and the past due notice step in here. I don't have a problem with
And
that.
Susan says she has control over that.
Right.
Well, I think we have control over that. I will work to influence that for certain.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we do have some say, because I remember at one point we sent them out early, like a month earlier, and we got a lot of backlash for that, saying, why are you sending us something on June 1st when it's not due until July 1st? So I think it's a,
June 10th?
right.
20 days prior.
I mean, that's what your credit cards, it'd be nice if we got
Right.
5 days pretty much after you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
it to pay them.
Right.
So does everybody believe, based upon the next page that Susan has, that day 35 will solve your concerns?
We were going to send out a past due notice, and there's an example, it's in B, attached to your, that just says, recently you were sent a statement of your account to remind you of the quarterly assessments. Your account has now been assessed late fees and interest. If you're experiencing a hardship, your CROA board is available to consider an alternative arrangement to bring your account current. If you feel there's been an error, please reach out to us right away to correct our information. So it's telling them, you're late, you've been assessed the late fees and interest, but if you're having an issue, and I think that's where I say we as a board, you as a board have, with your non-compliance notices, but are trying to be not the hammer to your community, but be the partner to say, hey, just to let you know.
More high touch.
More high touch, that's exactly right. This will get us there as far as the collection policy goes.
I know it's on the letterhead, but would it make sense just to give Melissa's contact right now?
Yes,
In
in
the-
fact,
in
I
the
think that
The letter that's on here.
we were changing that, but yes, we do need to put it on.
It's on the letter.
It's on one of the letters, it's not on the one, example B.
Oh, I saw the last chance email.
Example.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
it's
I think to,
61.
yeah, to
Sorry.
answer Debbie's question, I think for consistency, we want to make sure we have the contact information on them.
Yeah, that looks great.
And then you have samples in there of all the letters that we send out, so you can look at those. And I would, one of the things I would like to do is combine the resolution that we created in August into our collection policy from 2010 to come up with one policy that says exactly what we're doing, rather than two.
And does this do that?
We'll do this based on your feedback,
Okay.
with the help of the attorney.
Right.
A little help.
Do you think this resolves concerns? I guess,
I mean, I think it's
does this make you?
a positive step. I'm not sure what all.
Yeah, does this extra touch make you feel more comfortable by the time we get to day 51 and they've received an intent, meaning that they've already received contact from us before, that?
They're getting a reminder to a
Yeah, no, I
reminder.
mean, yeah, I think that's, I like the way it's worded. You know, this is not an area that I've had a lot of concern with. I think assessments are something that, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who don't get assessments, so it's not an area that I've had that much concern in. I think we need to, I'm all for enforcing assessments and enforcing late payments and interest as well. I think we need to enforce them. So, yeah, but I do agree with the wording is, I do like the way the wording has changed. And
I like the extra touch.
and to be honest with you, and I mentioned this to Steve, I've heard several people mention to me in the governance process that they feel like how the communication is going is better, and it's, I don't know what the word is, but it's just a better atmosphere in the conversations that are going on in campus. I think that's really good. These are tough people I talk to, so it says better than.
You got to go to the toughest, right?
Yeah,
You
no,
get-
they're not,
So then is this something we're going to vote on tomorrow night?
No, this isn't, it's not a new resolution yet. This is just to get the feedback from you, and if you guys were okay with it, it sounds like you are, then we would go to the attorney and get it
Do you
updated.
think it happened?
I guess, Debbie, I apologize, did I interrupt when you were talking to Paul about, did you have any concerns about the process, or you good with this?
Yeah, I think it's better. Yeah. It's okay.
I may interject two things that I was going to bring up later. Now, I won't talk about them later. these are possible workshop topics, was assessment of building discounts. In other words, you pay for the whole year versus your 4 installments. When you pay 4 installments, just sending letters out or notices for 3 additional times, you're probably spending $6. You know, so if you have a pay your $9, $11, $40 plus the trash on that, so it's, you know, close to $1,200. But our assessment is $9, $11, $40. Pay that. You get your notice right before the beginning of the year. Pay the assessment for the full year. And you pay $905, or you pay these quarterly payments, and it winds up being the whole $911, or something to that effect. And if and when, and I have no plans on having assessments go up this year myself. If and when we raise assessments, then maybe keep it at $911.40 for the full year payer, and have some other steps in it.
What's the cost for us to mail out each individual person?
Well, each statement, I went to Letterstream and looked, it's costing us 76 cents to mail out.
Per-
And that includes the postage and,
So plus,
So your discount's only going to be $3.
now, plus you have the accounting of how do you figure out where those people are. I mean, I know kids out the computer, but there is an advantage to having your money up front for the full year. You don't have to worry about it not coming in for the rest of the year. So I don't want to go through and talk about the whole things. That was one of the things. And the other thing that has to do with the same thing is we need a policy on waiving late fees on assessments. We need to have a policy promulgated that is, whatever it turns out to be, you know, you're allowed 2 late fee waivers in a 5-year period or something like that. Past that, it must be a special circumstance. Maybe someone died in the family, something, you know, somewhat catastrophic that you just took your mind off of everything going on and you did what you needed to do at home first. But I think we needed a straight something like that, because every month in our pack you bring to us these whole list of fees being waived, and I saw this month we have one that's at least had 12 late fees over the last 5 years, wanting to be waived now. If it fell within that policy, we would never have to see the ones that fell within the policy. We would just automatically drop those off. And then the ones that are egregious would come to us and we would vote through or at least have a good discussion on it.
right. I think Rachel and Melissa had suggested the same recently.
Well, we actually have, it would be much easier. What we don't want to do is, we don't want to be in the position of ever telling someone, no, that if they choose, they are welcome to come to the board. However, this is the current policy, but always let them know that they're
Well,
welcome.
they always have an appeal to the
Yeah.
board for anything they want. But
We just want to end it.
the ones that you guys can dispose of without having to before us, you can dispose of because they
Right.
met those criteria that we put out to you.
Right. I think we last month was the first time that we added a little bit extra information on number of requests, number of intent to liens that were sent, those types of things. And we've clarified that a little bit more for this packet where we've changed the listing so that you have the 0 request up top. And
Right.
because I think there was a little bit of confusion on the way that we pulled them and the way that they were motioned and voted on last month. So we're trying to clear that up a little bit for this
I
month.
think as a board, we've all kind of been pretty consistent with some of the questions we've asked about.
Mhm.
It's a repeat, so now you actually have that on there. But what is everybody else's thoughts about trying to create this policy?
Make a policy so publicly known that everybody says, well, let me use my get out of jail card this month. I'm not sure. We can do a blanket pass-through rather than at least have a report on who's gotten passed through and why.
Once, I don't think people will do that. I mean, this is my personal
I hope
opinion.
not, you know, I'm just.
That late fees and interest on your credit card, I mean, gosh, once in the last 5 or 6 years, I forgot a credit card bill. It was a fairly substantial bill. And I call them, I go, you know, you waive the late fees and interest? They're like, oh yeah, you've never ever missed anything with us. And then it was gone. And I think we should put that same effort forward to people. And if we do put a policy out that way, and we see that we're on getting a whole lot more, we can change the policy. We're just letting staff come through and make this, or have a policy that they make a decision at what level, and then we don't see it before our board. We can still get a report on the numbers they waive.
Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't that need to be a resolution then?
Yes.
So for it to be a formal policy, it would have to be a voted and approved
Oh, no.
resolution.
Well, I think we probably would do, if that was a direction that we
Add it
wanted
to
to go
the-
as a board, we could do it at the exact same time as
Correct.
opposed to do the letter. That
Yeah,
would not-
add it to the collection
I have that
policy.
listed as just one of my total workshop list here.
Right.
I think I'd like to see what we have later in the agenda.
I have a question on the automatic pay. Is there still a fee every month on automatic pay? No. 'Cause there used to-
There is, not through CCMC, no.
I'm sorry.
And not through CCMC, direct debit, there is no fee.
They charge.
You're-
There used to be something when you signed up, there was a fee to do an automatic payment.
If you do reoccurring payments at Union Bank, as long as it's through a checking account, there is no fee. If it's a credit card,
Credit
there's
cards,
$14.95.
okay. So
The
you
credit
can't
cards
do
are
a credit card.
substantial.
Are we like the last person in the world in county for your credit card? Because I feel like we're close.
You can pay for your credit
But
card,
there's a
but
fee.
there's a
But
fee
there's
because
surcharge.
they charge the vendor.
Right.
Yeah, I had a resident come to me and say, you got to charge $44 for a fee. Why was that fee so much? And we found out it was his credit card company
Mhm.
that charged the fee of $44.
Right. So Vanessa, for clarification, as we work with the attorney to put this updated policy together, do we want to address a certain number of requests per year?
Do we have a general consensus from everybody, just your thoughts about this?
I'd say 1 every 5 years.
Whoa. I like 3 every 5 years.
I was thinking, yeah,
Maybe then we'll compromise on 2.
And I actually like two.
Let me ask you, is that a problem? We have, a lot of times it's the same folks that are paying late.
Generally,
Yes.
same
9
vote.
times out of
Well,
I'd hesitate doing more than 2 times.
Yeah, I would too.
Because you're talking about 20 payments over 5 years.
Well, and to that point, I mean,
And
when you
that's
said,
10% is
when you
fine.
said the policy, they still come to the board. So if there is a circumstance where it's their third or fourth time, they still have the ability to come
Come to the
and appeal
board.
that to the board.
Yeah.
But
So-
they
Well, no,
automatically
You talk
come
about waiving the first 2.
Without coming to the board.
without coming to the
Yeah,
board.
they'll come to the board.
Yeah. Well,
So-
then I'm just saying no more than that.
Right, but I'm just, just to clarify what I mean is, if indeed there is a circumstance to where somebody has been a longtime resident,
Yeah.
they haven't missed, but there's a series where they,
Special
a
circumstance.
special circumstance where they can still come to appeal to the board. So even if we do say a more, because for those that are more are concerned about being restrictive, I guess is my point. If we were to say 2, you feel like it should be 3 or 4, at least we're going to have a starting point so that it's less work on their end to have to put it into a board packet. Does that make sense?
Are we saying the policy would read that management would just have the authority to waive the first 2 within 5 years, even if they use their first 2 right off the bat? As long as it's no more than 2 within 5 years. Now, anything above and beyond 2 and 5 years has to come back to the board?
no, would it automatically not be waived? Then if the owner challenged it and said, I'm asking it to be waived because of special circumstances.
Right.
Then it would come.
They appeal to
Okay.
the board.
Right, which is most likely would happen then at that point, is they would go back to Melissa and say, okay, well, I've used my 2, I want you to take it to the board for anything above and beyond. Does it make more sense to flip it the other way, to bring anything that's under 2 within 5 years to the board to approve and say that they'd have to, well, I guess that doesn't make sense. I'm thinking through it, it doesn't make
Well,
any
then
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, that's,
yeah.
And Jeff, go ahead.
I will go with 2 and 5 years, but
Right.
not consecutive.
so it can't be your first 2 years.
Not 2 in a row.
Not first quarter, second quarter.
Well, and are you even saying per year?
I'm just saying, you can do 2 over 5-year period, but not.
Just not back to back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Non-consecutive.
2 non-consecutive times prior to board approval being required.
Okay.
I think they're consecutive, I don't know about that. I mean, is that part of, that's.
And-
kind of like-
and
I don't showing a pattern that they're not paying.
I still don't think I would word it that way. I think I would word it as, you get 2 late fees waived, non-consecutive in 5 years, period. That's it. That's all you say. You don't say anything more you take to the board. That's their responsibility to try to.
To try to do that, good point, I actually.
Can I say, make that a rolling 5 years?
Yes. How do you keep track of all this stuff?
I don't know.
Well, they have on their.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? You gonna say,
Oh,
I'm gonna do 2
thank
in 2016 and then 2 in 2021? or-
Quick clarification that's, that Rachel just pointed out.
areas.
You have to remember service areas.
That's
is
correct.
monthly, so how
Yeah,
do we-
that's right.
That would cover it.
Are we hearing what I was saying? Rachel just brought up service areas are monthly, so we need to put that into consideration when we're making our policy.
I would still say the same thing, 2 non-consecutive for 5 years.
Very good.
Yeah, I don't think it's any different.
Well, they got 60 payments.
Yeah, it's 60 versus
Percentage,
20.
quarterly.
Well, but we're talking more along the lines, they do homeowners, they have double, right? They have two, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, but if I've got something monthly, chances are I put it on some kind of system.
Right.
You know,
I guess since this is coming from the staff, does that resolve and make things easier for the staff? Because that's the ultimate purpose of trying to come up with this. Does that resolve the issue or not? If we said 2 non-consecutive over 5 years?
Melissa? Oh, you guys are conferring?
Yeah, they're in a huddle.
Talking to the attorney?
You have another thought? Do you guys have another thought?
I've got a question.
You-
Sidebar here.
While we're doing a sidebar, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I don't pay my assessments on time the first quarter, then there's another late fee that goes the next month, and another late fee that goes the next month, you know, until, yeah, there's a late fee every month. Yes,
Well, I think there will.
But the interest,
So they
interest,
should-
interest, I'm sorry.
Right.
You knew what I meant. But there's, so that there's interest that comes out this month, and that's what you're talking about, late fees and interest.
Right.
So there's interest, interest, interest. Then when I get my next statement next quarter, you know, I say, oh crap, I guess I forgot, or, you know, whatever. And so are you waiving then all those 4 months of late fees?
They're going to get a second notice.
I know, so are you gonna do, when you guys are saying like 4, you know, once a quarter?
Right.
You're saying interest is cumulative.
I guess,
Yeah.
just to clarify, right now, when we waive it as a board, that's the case, correct?
The owner has contacted us to request that they be waived. We're not automatically waiving anything.
They don't offer that.
Well, and I wouldn't, even as that, I still would think that they need to call you and say, hey,
But Vanessa, I would say though, if they're 2 months past when their payment was due, then they're gonna ask to waive all interest and late fees,
Right.
even the cumulative
So
months.
does that count as one time? If it's 3 months?
Right, if it's that quarter.
Yeah, the interest isn't that huge. I mean, it's mainly the
It's
$25.
18%.
How many touches do they get during that 90 days?
Well, they're gonna get, what do we have here? They're gonna get
$25.
the statement, they're gonna get the late
the 35
letter,
day.
Right.
they're gonna get the last chance email, and then they're gonna go to the attorney.
So there's 3 touches during that 90,
Right.
90, or that
But the
90
email,
days.
they've already got.
So
By the email, they've
And
already.
the intent to
They've
lien.
already incurred them.
I would say that's not the case then, because if I've been touched 4 times and they've told me I've got a late payment, and I'm still not paying it until the next quarter, shame on me.
Okay, I guess now just to move it back, and we'll get back to your question. Did you guys, when you were in your huddle, did you come up with a, yes?
I think there are a lot of things to consider.
Okay.
You don't waive that many numbers, okay? Our position is, you need a policy that protects you. We would almost rather you take the position of what gets waived, but you need some foundation as to what's going to get waived. We would rather bring them to you, and you say no.
Because you guys don't want to have to say no.
Okay, then us, but you do need a policy so you're not picking and choosing.
Correct.
Okay?
That's what I wanted to avoid was
Yeah.
where it looks like you'd be favored to one,
Yeah.
Because you waive, 1 month you
Consistency.
waive someone with 4, the next month you wouldn't waive someone with 3. So I guess in helping with what we need here, then, Steve.
Well, let me ask you, the simplest one, why are we waiving these things? It's like, you know, if I pay late, I know I pay a penalty, I pay interest, pay a little bit of money, so just have nothing, just like anything else, nothing. But if you want to appeal it, you can appeal it, and we'll consider it.
That's
You know,
what they
So that's what we're doing now, correct?
That's what we do now.
That's what we
You don't
do
pay
now.
your water bill, they cut the water off, okay? But we still would rather you all be the ones to tell them.
Well, and essentially, that's what's happening when they're coming to you. It's they're appealing to you to decide whether or not you're going to waive it. So if it's a policy that you guys are determining as a board that you say 2 or 5 years, we just consistently won't do that. That wouldn't go into the resolution at that point, and that would just be an
That's our
internal policy.
that's our internal
Right.
guideline.
I just
But-
say 0, and if you want to appeal, you know, come to us, and
If-
if there's a
if-
hardship, we'll consider it.
Well, that's-
We'll
that's
probably not
policy.
happen, but
That's
if
what
you
it
come
is
to
now.
us,
That's what it is
and
now.
she tells us, you know, this is the 5th time they've been late in 6 months, I'm not gonna.
And that's where I want to tie into you is, how many times is it appropriate that we waive it?
None, unless if they have a valid reason, I would say yes, that, you know, but
Okay, then
if they
let's-
come back the next quarter and say the same reason,
We've done due diligence in every way possible to get the notices out to
you're
them.
given.
And you
And
know,
we're even adding one now.
You know that you pay quarter bills.
You have 40 days to pay before you got done.
So just to clarify that, what I'm hearing is you don't, basically you don't want to change it, you don't want to do a policy, or do you? I mean, because what's happening now is they have a list and they come to the board. It's
No.
gonna
Are
be then-
you coming to the board with a list that you created, or are you coming to the
No,
board
that's-
of a list that residents have come to you
The
and said, I want
residents.
to
Not with them.
Oh, okay.
They ask us, right?
The residents that came in.
So that's what I'm saying. So right now, that's basically what you would be doing. Is this, so what they're talking about is not any different than what is currently being done. Is that accurate? Okay.
Other than you're just going to be more strict on what you are approving.
Quite honestly.
As I hear this, it tells me that these people that have 12 that have come back must have gotten help for the first 10 or 11, or they would keep coming back every time. And say, let's
Well,
look
the board
at that.
packet, you had 3, right?
Your example is a little
I saw
way
3 in the
out,
board
because
packet.
we
Yeah,
rarely
there aren't
would.
that many of them.
I saw 3 in the board packet, and I saw 1 that I thought was legitimate.
That was it.
I saw one
The
with-
Susan, where are the,
Just
here
the first
first?
one.
They should be under tabs 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
There's only one, the first one was the only one I
Yeah,
considered.
right.
So I guess.
You need to change it.
So Leonard, since this was something that you had wanted to put up as a topic, how are you wanting to change the current process, which is the resident gets their late notice and they say, oh crap, and I don't want to pay my interest and late fee, they reach out to staff and the staff says, okay, we'll appeal it to the board and it comes to us.
Initially, I had thought letting the staff not have to bring as much to us would be a better idea. It sounds as, after getting all the information, that that's not true. But it does still sound like the board needs an internal policy where we're not going to let someone came through. Last month, I think we approved 1 or 2 that had 2 lates or something like that. So,
Wait a second. Wait, I want to, there's too many conversations, sorry, give me 1 second. If you have something for everybody, just give us a second. Sorry.
I brought this up because last meeting we had 1 or 2 that had 2 lates, and there's discussion whether 2 or 3. There wasn't a clear consensus with the board, and I thought we should do. So if they do appeal, whether it's 1, 2, 0, whatever number we come up with as a internal board policy, I guess is what I've been told we should call this, then we should just stick with that every month, unless there's what I call
Extenuating circumstances?
yeah, what did I say? It was special circumstance exceptions.
Yeah, I gotta say, last month, we stumbled across one that had 3 properties that was due for, that they visited for the first time. That was their stumbling point. Okay, whether we should say, oh, we can forgive each of these properties for being overdue 1 time, or whether, shame on you, had 3 properties, you should have known better, you paid dues. I go along with Paul. I think it's something we need to review on a case-by-case basis. Problem is we need to review it prior to the meeting.
But like, if you look at tomorrow's agenda, you have one ITL in the last 5 years and 5 incidents of late payments. The next one has 4 intentional leads with 12 incidents of late payments in the last 5 years. The other one has 8 intentional lead letters with 15.
And Leonard, I'm going to ask you, look at the excuses they have for number 2 and 3. Okay, are you really going to approve those?
I'm not going to approve any of those because that exceeds,
I would approve one.
I know you know, number of incidences. The number one had 5 incidences in the last 5 years.
Okay. Was that
So
intentional?
I would not approve that
But
one.
how many, the question I have for number 1 is how many times have they requested waiver of late fees?
I don't know. We don't have that information. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It did get added. That used to be one time they requested it before.
That's it. So that's one time I requested. I could give them a second chance.
So, but that was one time out of 5. They've been late 5 times.
Because they didn't
They only
request.
asked for
They-
one.
they-
They didn't request
They paid it.
Okay. No, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I wanted to bring this up so we get a firm policy, and today may not be the day to bash the rest of this.
My issue is I don't want to make it a policy of waiving fees every month, every quarter. Okay, you forget your homework one time, okay. 5 years, yeah, I can give you a second time, but not on a consistent basis, so we're going to forgive this. Okay, we rely on people paying their dues on time, otherwise programs suffer.
Yeah, it's hard to come to me with hard and fast rules. Everybody's places to do it, so I think the board should have.
Yeah, they're coming to us already with an appeal for a reason. We just have to deny it.
And if you gave me a good reason, then I'll consider it. But I'm looking at 2 and 3, those shouldn't be on the paper.
And is that pretty much the consensus of everybody? I guess I just want to make sure that, that Leonard, your question or your concerns have been answered, but we don't also make sure
I think we're very comfortable with that. There are folks who would just as soon not take it. So you aren't really seeing them all.
Right.
My only concern is equal treatment above everyone. And again, number 1, even though they paid their late fees 3 out of 5 times so far, this is the second time they've come back to request. Which I guess technically would meet we would waive it twice in a 5-year period.
Right.
So I guess, okay, I don't have trouble with going, I would say yes, probably tomorrow night on number 1 because of that.
It's very similar to when somebody comes and appeals a fine. And you guys set, not a written policy, but you set kind of an internal board policy that you try and not reduce past $500. Now, there are circumstances where you've gone below the $500, but you kind of have that internal number of $500.
One time, very special so far.
Right.
So I guess, is there a circumstance then, because it's been more of an unwritten rule that we've done
Right,
that.
right.
So based upon that, as a board, we can just come up with a consensus and say, generally speaking, let's keep with the no more than 2 times in a 5-year period and not consecutively. But we don't have to have that. Can I get everybody's attention again real quick? I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page, and then I'll get back to you. So just to make sure that everybody's, so two times in 5 years, we don't have to have a written policy, but we can have a general consensus amongst the board, correct?
Mhm.
Without having written similar to what we're doing with our other.
Well, as long as there's a good reason for it. Not just one,
Okay,
Right,
right,
under
other
the
than
extenuating
three.
circumstances, if we're setting up a payment plan because somebody lost a job,
Right.
or a death in the family, or some
Right.
major catastrophe.
Okay.
And Vanessa, we're not going out and putting them on the list. When they come to us, that's when we add them on the list. So it makes sense then if you're going to err on the side of 2 every 5 years, then someone would make the motion for what those extenuating circumstance numbers are. So if you felt like 1, 4, and 6 were the ones that you would approve, you would make a motion to approve 1, 4, and 6.
Tim and Jack, was there something you guys wanted that you had? Obviously, you have a concern about something.
No,
so
I was
would
just
you-
trying to show on the last page of the packet, so
Oh, okay.
I understood this.
Okay. So is there any other? We do. so you're good with that one then? You're okay with just kind of going with what we've got now?
Yeah.
Okay. How about, since on the agenda was adding day 35, we had never really, we're good with just going forward with that? And day 35? Is there anything else with regards to the collection policy that we wanted to discuss that we haven't yet? Okay, and you guys have clear direction as to which way to go for.
I understand.
Okay. So is everybody good with moving on from collection policy and then going on to 2016 communication plan? Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, while JR is making his way up to the table, I'll just kind of recap. The communication policy, during the board strategic plan, we talked a little bit about having a communication policy and having our corporate communication director come in and run a communication workshop. That happened back in May. So that information was taken and compiled, and that is compiled into what you've seen here in front of you, the 2016 communication plan. This was also emailed to the communication committee and the board, I think about 2 weeks ago. So you had some time to review it over the past couple of weeks. And JR is just going to kind of go over it real quick with you, and then we'll hear some feedback from you and some direction. If it's good the way it is now, we'd like to do an add-on to tomorrow's agenda for approval. If there's a lot of modifications or changes, we can bring it back next month.
And as a side note, thank you to the communications committee members for attending today. This was not something that was required, so thank you very much.
JR?
Ms. Steve mentioned that the communications workshop was in May with the staff members, corporate communications committee. Vanessa was also present at the workshop. As a result of that workshop, 9 objectives were identified. With each objective, we identified a point person, target audience, key message, tools and activities and resources required, as well as a timeline for implementation. The plan was also designed to align with the support and organizational goals of this year. A communication protocol was also established in order to identify, among other things, the process for communicating and consistency in our brand and vision and message, and also identify the appropriate contact regarding specific topics. In total, 4 key messages were created out of that workshop, which encompass the 9 objectives that are identified in the communications plan. If you want me to go each one, or?
Would you like us to go over each one separately, or does anybody have any one specifically you'd like to talk about?
I guess first question is, has everybody had an opportunity to look over this? Because if not, JR, we want JR to go over this really in depth. That way, we don't miss anything. Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're not missing anything. What do you want from JR?
Comments, just a general impression.
Yeah, I want you to just go over.
Well, go ahead and go right into your
Okay,
turn.
no, I appreciate it. I like what we've got here. I guess my general comment would be is that I think this, to me, I see this as sort of a technology kind of more technology-oriented, more kind of putting together physical. And we've talked about, and I think this is included in the communication part, is having more informal opportunities for people to interact with the board and staff, doing things that are, not a presentation formal, some more formal stuff. And the thing we've talked about previously is the doing the ice cream socials in the new areas. And that's why so people can, so it's just, here's my name tag, I'm a board member, somebody can come up and say, what do you got a CDD member there, they can find out from that. So it's a very informal kind of process they go through. Something like taking advantage of opportunities that we have, like and maybe it's already happening, but like Food Truck Friday, having board members and staff out there with name tags on, so people informally, they're eating, they see us, we can talk to them. One thing we used to do was that a a couple things. One, for new people, we would, I think once a quarter or so, we would have back, I remember when I was at the school, all the different social civic groups would be there. And people would come in and.
I really like that.
And we did that with youth sports as well. We did that a couple of years with youth sports, where all the youth sports were at the gym. And people could come in and see what opportunities they had in youth sports for their kids. So, I think, so I guess that would be my general, is that I think I'd like to see more opportunities for informal opportunities for people to meet and see, the CROA board members, CD board members, all the different organizations. Because I drive around and I see, I used to, in the early days, you knew everybody. Now it's like a lot of new people in here. And, I wish it'd be nice to have more opportunities where we could just sit there and talk and you could ask one of the questions they had. I know, we were out I was out with the covenants folks. And it was really interesting. It was like, we really learned a lot. I was a board member while we were doing covenants. And, of course, the person comes out that we're doing covenants on, and I'm like, but it was a great conversation. The person appreciated the covenants process. There was a really good communication between the covenants group and her. And it was like, this is, for people to kind of understand the covenants process, to actually, talk to them and see them, whatever, it's a lot easier than just somebody getting a memo in the mail saying, hey, do this or else. I guess that's my 2 cents worth.
Steve, is there any way that we can, because I know that to this point, there's not really a specific policy in the policies, that's something to talk about through. Because I actually think that would be important, because we've all talked about it, and we could actually incorporate it in the plan. I think very helpful. Even to go to the extreme of saying you're responsible for coming this month. So I'll be honest, I don't go to the food truck that often. It's not that I don't want to, and I see it. It just other things get in the way. But if it's on my calendar, I have to attend. It's my job to attend that one. I think we would all be much more attentive to those types of programs.
It's sort of easy thing. You just send out a sign up and say, board members
who's going to be able to make it, and then reach out.
Somehow we get some name tags or something, so people know. It's like.
Yeah.
That's Jack. That's the guy, Jack. I don't like him on the board.
Thanks.
What about,
I think Mark and his friend, are trying to put like some lemonade together.
Yes.
Board members attend that as well.
So we had, back at strategic planning, I believe it was, we'd asked Steve to set up some ice cream socials starting in Spring Lake, the newest club. And so we could go places once every month, once every 6 weeks, and get neighbors out, find out what's going on in their area and what needs to be done in that area. There's things that need to be done.
That'd be good.
I think JR
So-
covered that in is that under 8?
It can be,
that's what I was thinking, it would be a good fit to,
That's where I got it.
Number 8 on.
under engage.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the chart here about the topics and stuff.
Under the plan. Under the communications plan, I mean, it could fall under 8 for the residential or.
Right. So we'll look at updating number 8 under the engage to include informal meeting or informal communication with the board, including ice cream socials, food truck Friday, any other opportunities that we can identify.
Yeah, if we could, again, maybe it's not right, but maybe some specific tactics that we can use to get staff and board members out of the community in informal situations.
Founders Day weekend, we can have something set up somewhere where, everyone could take 2 hours there or something. So anyone who wanted to come by during an 8-hour period or something would have a board member there to come by and
Actually, Founder Days weekends usually when we have the picnic. I guess it's going to be 4 Rivers again.
we're still getting bids for it, but it looks like it.
that'd be a great
Place to do it.
time.
But I think it's something, I know we have not in the past, we've not said board members can please attend.
Right.
And you just kind of attend it, so we'll be on
Right.
your end, maybe it's a formal invite.
Day coming up in September. That would be another good opportunity.
CDD
Yeah.
and foundation.
I agree.
Can we get by with Sunshine Law for doing that with CDD?
Thinking of
Can we
this
separate them by 100 feet or something?
People overreact to the sunshine law. The sunshine law really is just, you can't discuss business.
You can't talk about business, no.
Between each other. They
Right.
can all sit at a table, and each person can come up and say, I don't like this with CDD, to that person. And the next person can be talking to another person about it. They just can't be meeting across.
Right.
Sometimes too, they can even just post that a notice saying that they're going to be there. I think it was, because I know that the school board, if you remember, they just posted it as being some officials, then they'd be able to do something like that. So that may be something that they would be more willing to have.
Okay.
Does understanding that what you're saying, Paul, generally falls under number 8, how?
If we can just get more specific on the tactics on that, I'd like to know what the, and know that that's going to be followed through on, so.
Is that doable?
Yeah, that's fine.
Any other just general comments?
I just had a general question on 2, for the branding and messaging, where the front desk is going to identify hot topics. And it just seems from the communications that we've gotten, most of them are really coming from the back porch or the front porch or whatever. So do we want to include social media in that? I mean, for example, the one that was responded to most recently.
You talking about in our forums, or?
I mean, do you want, you guys must look at that, or?
Well, this isn't necessarily responding to, this is, we get an idea from the staff up front if there's something that's kind of standing out that day, if there's some calls coming in or people coming in and that they all tend to be talking about the same thing.
Do we have a place for that for the social media too, or should we put that in there, or not? Since we see we get a lot of what we see as far as complaints and all seems to be on social media, not just the phone calls.
So Debbie, you're speaking more as identifying hot topics, not just what we're receiving from phone calls or from people coming and talking to us, but what is out there on social media, and then utilizing that through to communicate through our communication mediums using our key messages. Not necessarily saying that we're going to engage on every social media.
Yeah, right.
Because that could really turn into.
No, we don't want to engage. Just saying that, sometimes we see, oh my gosh, this has like 100 comments.
Right.
We better address this.
Something that we can then
Yeah.
include as a hot topic.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and what I've seen is if we address that on the front porch, someone eventually copies it and posts it on
Right.
the other medias.
Right.
You don't have to post it there. It gets posted
Yeah.
very shortly afterwards.
And not even as us posting and responding, I'm just saying, a lot of times that's where we get a feel for what a concern is or whatever.
I think that's good for us to look at those opportunities also.
And have we given any serious thought to what Paul was talking about, having these quarterly new resident orientation sessions where we have all the folks come and there's tables and they go around like it used to be, where they
Scouts,
I remember that when we moved here, and I really thought it was a cool thing.
It's a great way to make it.
Yeah.
Whether it be quarterly or semi-annually, we have like March and September, 6 months in between, that way someone comes in and say, well, our next one is this time. A lot of times, 6 months in, people still haven't met as many people as they'd like to be.
Yeah, and I don't know if the turnover's that heavy within the celebration town itself, but all these outskirt apartment things and stuff like that, and stuff going on along Celebration Boulevard, every day, because we have a lot of turnover there too.
Steve, maybe there's an opportunity to incorporate that into once we're done with the recreation plan, because I think the clubs and stuff like that we're talking about actually is addressed in that. Is there a way maybe that we can, once that's all done, we can maybe like do a big unveiling where you can have all the different groups in one area? Invite them, is that what you're meaning?
I think he's talking about something slightly different than that.
Yeah, when we first moved here, we got a letter in the mail that says you're invited to this event, and we went to the K-8, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, and in the gymnasium or whatever it was, cafeteria, they had a bunch of everybody. There was just a display table, so there was just about every organization in Celebration was at a display table, and you went around as a new resident, met those key people, you know, they had giveaways, or they'll tell you a little bit about their organization, or whatever the case. And you also met with other new residents that were also meandering around as well. And I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Was it just civic organizations, or was it civic and the businesses
Well,
that were?
Town hall staff was there, I think, if you were,
I don't remember
Foundation
any-
was there.
I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember any businesses there.
I don't remember
There was like Rotary was there.
Yeah.
Oh, so civic
Yeah,
organizations.
and, you know, now we have all the churches and, I mean, just, you know,
Boy
those
Scouts,
kinds of things to get involved in, the foundation, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we did one of those, it was called Welcome to the Neighborhood. We did one of those about, I want to say about 2.5 years ago, and I think we used all 3 of these rooms. We did it that, and that was the thought, that we would go back to that. We had it that one time, and then I don't know why they didn't do it again.
They are a lot to set up.
Yeah.
They are,
Was it well attended or?
yeah, they were time
I don't think it
consuming.
was what they expected or what they had hoped for.
It
There were,
was
there were plenty of people there.
pretty good, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, not.
It's never what you, yeah.
Well, then the other thing is to be able to do a good job of marketing it too.
That's it,
you know.
is market it properly, you know, with sufficient number of groups who are interested.
Yeah. And I mean, participation wise, you're right, everybody that was there really enjoyed it.
But it's a
And
good
they
one.
are time consuming, so I don't know if you want to do it once a year.
I think that probably would be our biggest concern, is just the amount of time. We think it's a great idea for a program, it's just, it's going to require resources to do it right. So can I offer this suggestion? The Special Events Committee is looking at putting together the list of events for 2017 for our budgeting process. Can they consider that as maybe a biannual event, and how that fits in with the rest of the events? And then we can promote it as an event.
But it's
I
not,
think it's just, I think it's more fun.
no,
I think it's a great idea.
Initially, I heard CCS in my head, not special events.
No, you're right, special events, yeah. Just, the list, father-daughter dance, National Meet Your Neighbor Day, and then see where we could, fit
Couple of those.
2 of those a year.
Well, we could meet that same type of thing with meet CROA Ice Cream Social here. All 3 rooms open, and then invite all the clubs to at least bring a little bit of information about their organizations, and just put
Sure.
a little sign up for each one of the clubs or whatever that wants to come down and leave things, whether it's Rotary or anyone. They don't have to staff it even. They can always leave their brochure or contact information. If you're interested in this, here it is.
Right.
And invite the new people and all the other residents that would want to come and do that.
Right.
I'm just throwing out things.
Is there any-
And the committee, the Special Events Committee may have other creative ideas to add to that.
Covenants there.
Can we do it like on a food truck Friday night, just open this whole place up for put your dessert in here? Or we're taking too much away from food truck Friday?
Or will it ruin the carpet?
Well,
Yeah.
So I mean, getting all 3 sections of the building together for one night is a premium thing to do.
Yeah, that's right, you got that right. Yeah.
We'd have to do residents only on this half. You have to leave the restrooms open for the public. And some food truck Fridays, I've been out there when I was running, and 2/3 of the people on that particular night were not from Celebration, not voters.
Well, this might inject more people in food truck Fridays too.
It could actually have up the takeout there. It would affect the people that sell desserts out there possibly, if the residents would come in. But it may not, because like I said, a lot of times, I've only seen about 1/3 of the residents out there. And it's become a local thing where you get people in from all over.
Yeah.
It makes us money, so I don't care about that.
I think if it's not going to be every month, if it's not going to be a consistent, if it's going to be once or twice a year, the events committee can look at adding that as an event and talk a little bit about how that would look. And
Any
Does that work?
other thoughts,
Yeah.
questions, concerns? We'll head back to GRIC.
Jared, one other question. I didn't see it in here, but I kind of missed it. Is there anything about upgrading some computer systems and programs and machines you guys have for staff?
I'll defer that.
Some of them are slower and older and, I don't know, Patrick probably knows
I'll defer
that.
that to Patrick.
I apologize, I only heard half the question.
Okay, are there any plans to upgrade any of the computers or the programs for the computers for staff that you guys have currently?
So on the other side of the office, what we use on a daily basis, we do that yearly, but we rotate them out.
So they're being upgraded?
Yeah, yeah. they're-
And I think that part of addressing that is number 9 under evolve, and this has been over the last couple of years, I think one of Eric's initiatives is just that continue to evaluate that next generation technology that will help improve communications. And I think that that's going to kind of be the move, what the communication committee will be doing moving forward, making sure that they're identifying, looking at that.
Is there anything else that you want to address with this? Right, that's all it is. I'd like to
Just
just reach
update.
out, since we have a couple of the committee
Oh.
members here, is there anything in specific you'd like to address with us regarding this?
Just what our role is going to be in implementing this plan and putting things together moving forward to achieve the goals that we outlined. What do you expect from us? Is there, do we get together once a month or twice a month? Or, I mean, what, do we get our direction directly from Eric? How does that work?
We need to get the communication committee meetings back up and running. We were waiting for the plan to come back, but now that the plan's back in, I think it's, JR will be working with the committee to get those regular meetings scheduled and
Okay.
established. And then we can go through the plan and look at what some deliverables can be and talk about what, identifying any of that next generation technology, because it does have communication committee as the point
Right.
for this, this objective.
Is it just that aspect of it, or are we involved in brainstorming from a marketing, branding standpoint?
We have the objectives identified in resolution for the communication committee. So I think we just need to pull that back out at the first meeting, kind of go over that, talk about how this new plan fits into that, and then work on deliverables from there.
Just one question. One major way that we communicate with the community is through our newspaper. So there's nothing about, what direction we take with the newspaper. The newspaper has pretty much been the same thing for, I think, 10 years. And I think, at some point in time, and I think this may be something the community is going to say is there, just ask the question, is this the right, one, to understand, I think as a board, we understand the cost of that. Are we making money, we're losing money, what's the cost, and then versus the benefit? And is this how we want to communicate with residents, or do we do it? I mean, I don't get a newspaper anymore, everybody does. I mean, I go digital. So, to me, that's something I would like the communications group to really grapple with.
Well, I think the other thing too, because I do enjoy the newspaper, but the other thing too is maybe revamp it so that it doesn't look the same every month. Because it's the same, not the same articles obviously, but the formats are always the same. Make it, change it up and give it a different look, or and make it more exciting that way too.
Michael, you asked to speak up.
Is that profitable? Is that paper profitable? Does it pay for
It doesn't completely pay for itself.
It doesn't.
Not completely, no.
I've been thinking about that paper in conjunction to the entire communications project. And I asked a bunch of neighbors about it, what they think of it, and it was unanimous. Everybody I talked to loves it. Thinks it's great.
I enjoy it.
Detailed. It's got all. You don't miss anything. If you hear about an event and maybe you didn't, you missed it. It was something you'd like to attend. Well, it was in the paper, so really the paper doesn't miss much. And I'm wondering if there's a way of doing a condensed version in the middle of the month instead of waiting till the end of the month, before the paper comes out.
Kind of our
Friday
Friday
flashes.
kind of fills in some of that.
Right.
Okay, that's online, right?
Yeah, that's the email.
Or, yeah, you can go right to our website or.
And if you're not getting that, just don't count all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
When I came here in 2014, one of the things I talked about was doing a newsletter instead of a newspaper, and it was met with a lot of, we really like the newspaper. I think it's a traditional thing in town where people still enjoy holding and having that newspaper.
I think that's one of the ways that you call the loss to it is because it's going to, it is a major way.
And quite honestly, it's a great marketing tool for downtown.
What the costs are, is there a way, one of the major beneficiaries of it are is the real estate and Lexington. I mean, that's, to me, a lot of it is, some of the, a lot of the benefit goes to Lexington. So we need to ask, are we, if we're losing money on this thing, we need to figure out how to make it money. Have we looked at our rates, have we looked at what we're charging, and whatever it is, because I don't think it should be a big, personally, I don't think it should be, we should be losing money. But that's my perspective. We at least need as a board to look at it. I don't know that the board has looked at it in 10 years.
Or come up with other ways to generate
All right.
Well,
Yes.
it sounds under CJC then.
It does.
Yes.
But we still pay 75% of
Okay, so
it.
it's-
Yeah, but anything we do, we have to talk to Janelle about this as well.
Is under our budget, we're looking at tomorrow's been there. with the
The budget work session tomorrow is going to be very basic, how the budget worksheets are laid out, how we're going to start developing budget. I'm not going to have all the budget numbers for you tomorrow. This is to kind of get, make sure we're all working in the same direction. So as we start populating those numbers, when we get to that actual meeting, it should be where we're all kind of thinking the same way. But we do have, on a monthly basis in our financials, there is a recap of Celebration News and the CJC financials, I believe.
It's it's gonna be your last page
Right.
of your CJC financials. And there's 2 line items also on the actual income statement for CJC.
Mhm.
Well, what I want to understand is all the costs that go into it.
Right.
And I don't know that, for example, I think staff people go out and in the truck and deliver them.
Mhm. Right.
So, I want to see, I'd like to see it fully loaded. This is what it costs. Here's how much staff.
Right.
So,
And
I
it
don't
does.
know. Again, but I don't even know what goes into the expense
Sure.
side. So it's like, we need to get in more detail, understand what is the expense side, what's the income side.
Right.
What isn't, so that we can sit there and say, this, as a community, this is what we are either making or losing every year.
Right.
with this newspaper.
Well, and also too, we need to examine what we're paying, what we're charging to
Ads.
advertise it as well.
Yeah, there are opportunities to,
Not getting running estimates.
I agree.
have we changed the fees, have we changed what we charge for ads in the last 5 or 6 years?
I thought we had, I think we had a similar discussion last year, just questioning some of that. Do you remember that was one of
That goes on advertising.
It was.
But I don't
It
remember going
was.
through the whole
No, we
thing
didn't.
for a long.
But I'm just trying to think if there was, I don't think we've evaluated, I think it's possible that every board has kind of said, what about the newspaper? But we haven't really done much beyond that.
Right.
So with just getting more comprehensive
This
information on
determines
that.
what the advertising rates are.
Mary was.
Well, she doesn't. I think they've been determined for a while. They haven't changed.
They haven't changed since I've been
Yeah,
here.
since I've been here, they haven't changed either. So they were established somewhere along the line.
Something to consider,
Right.
maybe
And-
make it
right.
at least break even, if not.
Right.
It would be easy to get we could probably, something could be set up on the
Absolutely.
website. People can, somebody encouraging people to do this, to do that kind of paper. Do they read it? Do they like it? Do they depend on it? And if you get a positive response, which I believe they would, that a lot of people in the community do read it, it's a way of showing what kind of circulation you have, how many people do read it. That can help determine, fair advertising rates. My guess is you're probably charging a lot lower for advertising than you should be. So,
Especially since it's the only paper in town. When someone comes in a celebration and they pick one up downtown somewhere, it's the only one here in town. And that's why real estate people and that advertise in this paper
right.
is because they're trying to get the people from the outside to come in to look at the house that they have for sale.
Especially the realtors, if they're not paying premium for having the houses posted in that real estate section, they should be.
But I totally agree with Paul, and we're going to have this discussion later about workshop topics, that we don't really have costing information about the paper because we don't get number of hours spent by whom on it. There's no job costing for the paper. So we never get a full peek under the curtains to say, yeah, this is costing us only $100,000, or is this costing us $200,000? We have more cost buried that we don't ever see.
It may be beneficial for us at one of our workshops over the next couple of weeks to be able to, well, we got a month. I mean, we have to have the budget work session where we talk about the numbers in September, end of September. So maybe next month we can pull out that section on the newspaper and just talk a little bit about expenses and the revenue and then the fees that we're charging for ad sales and those types of things.
Move on.
Well, did you get your,
That's it.
okay, so you're set. So we will have more information then on the news. Was there anything else you wanted to specifically, I'm going to turn this back over to you guys. Was there anything else you wanted specifically presented with regards to communications?
I'm good.
I don't think so. I think that's the overview, and we have heard from you a couple changes. Most likely we'll take the next couple of days to fix those, update those, and then we'll bring this back.
Anybody else with regards to the communications plan?
No, I'd like to thank all the members and the volunteer for thankless hours.
Hang on for just a second for the parade conversation.
Communications members here, I've got a quick question. Do you have a, when you're meeting again, maybe the board will look for some direction on, obviously, Michael and I'm assuming Scott, you too, want to stay involved in that role, so making sure that we have a way to make sure that they continue to be involved in the communications plan. So whatever that may look like.
Update at board meeting?
It's a regular
Sure.
meeting, so
Right.
maybe I would assume.
Yeah, we
so.
can add it.
Anyway, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we'll move on then from the communications plan. Jack, you had some specific concerns with regards to the 4th of July parade. Thank you very much, JR, for hard work putting all that stuff together. I heard great things about it, so thank you. Thank you very much. So Jack, I'm going to go ahead and let you have a floor with regards to your concerns.
Well, some of this goes back to our meetings with Paul, you and myself, and Mike never showed up, and the other person. And that was when we freed up the money from the committee there to fund the activities for the 4th of July. And
Just specifically for the audience, we're talking regarding the CSS.
CCS.
Or
CCS,
CCS, the two acronyms.
and as an aside, I would like to see the CSS budget information provided in our packet. We never see that. We didn't even know we had CSS until Steve told us about it 4 months ago.
I think you get the financial statements in your package monthly.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I missed it
It's
then.
in-
But anyway,
And if you'd like to sit down and talk about them, we can do that anytime.
you know, I like to highlight it because I'm not sure what I'm looking for there.
Okay.
But anyway, here's my objection is, when I told you guys, I said, look, I want to make this your celebration of residence. Okay, that was my primary thing. I said, I don't want to invite all Kissimmee to this operation. You understood what I was saying with that. So my problem was, I marched the parade, I turned around, and I saw at least 3 blocks long of candidates behind us. 19 different candidates, a minimum, had floats, trucks, everything else, everything except celebration residents were there. I thought it was totally inappropriate. My objection is that I would prefer to see the celebration residents in front of the parade to be recognized. I don't care less about the candidates. In fact, one of them doesn't even, he's not even votable in our district. I don't even know why he showed up. I understand the Democrat Party wants to have their candidates, and the Republican Party wants to have their candidates. But I feel that if the Republican Party and the Democrat Party want to march in the parade, have them march under the banner of the Democrat Party, and at the end of the parade, then you can have all the various candidates. after all the celebration residents have done everything. And I just, Steve, you looked at it, how many blocks, how much time was spent on people that were not celebration residents?
Yeah, there were quite a few that came in under the application of Democrats of Celebration. And on that application, it didn't say, we're going to bring 16 different people or however many they had. So at that morning when they showed up, you know, there were quite a few there, and they just keep coming.
To me, it was not a celebration parade.
Well, I think that's a lesson learned. I think if we don't want candidates in the parades, or we don't want them taking up the majority of the middle part of the parade, or however you want to say that. Yeah, I don't know that you can do that. A, but secondly, the other thing is that we just ban candidates from the parade and in the application it says no political candidates are allowed.
Well, I'm not trying to ban candidates because we've historically always had them, but I'm just saying.
But you can't have both.
This is a 4th of July parade. It was for 4th of July, for celebration residents. We should have been honoring our residents primarily. Okay, the candidates could be put at the end of the parade. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Well, I think to Jack's point too is wherever you decide to put them for planning purposes. And you guys did an amazing job and lined up a lot of people, and I heard really good things about how you did it this year. But you can have some idea. I mean, if they're just showing up on something, you've got all this. I don't know how you did it, but you did a great job. But candidates have always been great.
The other issue too was the guy who MC, and he started announcing these names. Now, who does his whatever he's saying? Do we get to review that, or is that just the Democrats?
I don't think
He didn't announce any of the politicians who marched with the Democrats. He did not identify. You can watch. It's on the video. You can watch the video. He actually referred to them as the Democrats of Celebration 3 separate occasions, but never referred.
Vote for your celebration residents.
No.
He
did recognize a Celebration resident who had applied for the parade and submitted an application on their own. But that was it. He didn't recognize any of the.
He read her sign. Her sign said vote for Crabtree, and I think he read her sign as she came around. But I think that was the only one. No. That you know, there were a couple of Osceola sheriff candidate. There was a couple people that did come in, and because they were identified on their application as who they were, he did read those people's names. The Democrats of Celebration that had just the never-ending candidates, none of those were identified by name.
I think to go back to Jack's concern, which I agree with, would be structure of the parade from front to back, where the last two groups would be all the Republicans and the Democrats, and you flip the coin over who goes in front of each one each year or something. You know, or rotate them every year. Whatever you want to do.
Depending on the year, you could have a nice brawl back there in the back.
That means what you're saying.
I think there are other issues besides political. I mean, you know, I would think with these parades you have all sorts of things that people come forward and say, I want to be a part of this parade, and you have to make a decision whether that's appropriate or not. Do we just want? And I guess what I'm suggesting maybe is a partial solution is. I mean, I know as a kid, we used to go to the Winter Park parade, and I brought this up before, is that, I mean, rather than reinvent the wheel, I mean, Winter Park's been doing this for 50 years. Can we find out, my guess is that they have a whole set of policies and procedures about what is appropriate, what isn't, kind of look at what they have and see if it makes sense for us. I mean, because they've been doing it a long time, and it's like, I think there are other things that are going to come up, and you're going to have to make a choice like, I don't know if that's appropriate or not. I mean, is it, you know, some used car salesman wants to get in. You know, there's all sorts of issues that come up with these parades.
Just because someone submits an application doesn't mean we let them in the parade.
We did. Okay.
I mean, we vet every application that comes in. And I think there were 2 actually that we rejected this year.
So with regards to out-of-town business, you may or may not.
May or may not. I mean, the Champions Gate Car Wash is in here, but they're residents of Celebration, so that's why they participated.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that the order of the parade, we should have been honoring the Celebration residents first, not subjecting them to 3 blocks long of political campaigns in the middle of the parade.
I think the board should decide this, because it's people, I don't know, I have a problem with somebody, promoting their business at the parade. Champions Gate Car Wash, I have a problem with that. I mean, to me, the parade should be civic organizations, not-for-profit organizations, Little League. Somebody promoting this car wash, again, I think the board should decide that. I mean, and maybe I'm out of step, but I think somebody promoting our car wash, I think that's ridiculous.
Even like the Rose Parade, you still have the sponsor's name on that thing, and it's a business of some sort.
I was just saying, so
And
you
so
just did
I'm not
the
really
parades,
sure.
I mean, if we took out the businesses, probably like the realtors have to, I'm just saying, where do you draw?
Even Winter Park, because my daughter's marches to Winter Park, and they have businesses that want to run a Winter
Or
Park.
we would have a small parade.
I think much as we've done with the rec committees going through and identifying different groups, I think the two groups, amend what I said a while ago, and we can decide the order at the back of the parade would be commercial interests and political interests. I mean, and then you have the Girl Scouts and the whatever else is marching all through, and then you have commercial and political interests, and limiting commercial interests you could do if you wanted to limit that to Celebration residents, like Champions Gate, the two guys that run that live in town.
You weren't here, but I guess there were realtors. How many entries did we have roughly in Council Jim?
That were realtors?
There were realtors or total?
How many total?
Total? 30,
It was pretty good.
40, no, you're,
We had them on front and back, so you had 30, 38, and then, well, there was about four more in there.
about 42.
It was great. I mean, because I have to remember the first parade where it was so big, they just had.
Been to a few of those.
Just, I guess in the interest of time, I don't know that we're going to solve this right away. I think to Paul's point, perhaps we can reach out to Winter Park, see if they have any specific policies or anything like that.
Bring it back, yeah.
And bring it back to us so that we can discuss. Oh, absolutely.
Well, my first priority is to get the Celebration residents up front and recognized first.
Right.
Okay, everybody after that, I don't care about.
Was there anything else regarding that you wanted to address then?
No, I'm fine with that. It's just, I just felt that Celebration residents were still sitting in the parking lot. Whatever else.
Well,
So do you agree that, sorry, do you agree that the commercial interests in politicians should be behind everything else?
Actually, if you remember correctly, I said they ought to be moved behind the horses and before the peanut people.
Yes, you did. I remember that, actually. I recall that comment. So I guess to move it back again, JR, you did a fabulous job. Thank you very much for all your hard work in doing that. Is there, and just to make sure that for everybody else's, the large volume that came through to this point it was unknown.
Well, then you need to specify the number of people.
Correct, and I think hopefully that will help.
You're right.
If
That would-
Winter,
put
if
that on the
Winter,
application.
it would, if Winter Park has a policy that has that may be something we may be able to incorporate, because I don't ever remember that happening when we watched that. So
Yeah, I don't think we're above borrowing and modifying for our needs other people's policies and procedures. If they have something good that makes sense, absolutely.
Well, and on the parade application, like Jack said, maybe have them specify who exactly is going to be in their group.
Right? How many
I mean, sometimes
participants?
it's hard, you don't know how many are going to show up, but,
But I mean,
you had to deal with all those extras when they put them in the Democrats and then extra shows up. Again, I don't know how you do it.
Well, not all of them ended up lining up inside here either.
Had some jump.
Somewhere on the road and kind of joined in from at that point I was already up by Market
If you were
Street.
Lakeside, you would have been,
Yeah.
in the pool. I don't know.
then we'll just look to hear this, to have this come back again before our next parade, which would be
November.
November for Father's Day weekend.
And it, unfortunately, it'll be after the elections. So most of the elections will be done, or all of the elections will be done by the time of the next parade.
But at least hopefully that will help though with all of the, any future parades.
You very well could have Hillary and Donald at any point during the summer wanting to.
So we're set then with politicians, or with the parade in general. The next thing that's on our agenda is the self-service functionality. Jackie, you brought this up. What was your concern
My
specifically?
question, I do a lot of self-serve stuff. Patrick will verify that. You know, I see a lot of stuff out there. A lot of stuff goes to CD, some goes to the county, some goes to us. What's troubling is a lot of the stuff I was getting back was saying closed because it had been passed on to another agency, which is a problem with the program. And what it should have done is said, you know, it's open pending action by another agency. Okay? It gives you a false sense that, oh, it's closed. Well, then I walk around the corner and it's not closed, it's sitting there. It's just been passed on to somebody else.
I think-
When it's moved to CBD, it's showing us closed.
It shows it's closed from the CROA side.
We reached out to the company to see if they could change the nomenclature of those fields, and the answer essentially was no, they can't do that. So we started talking a little bit about what's closed, what's not closed, and the actual nomenclature for it is completed in the system. So we talked about anything that we're just rerouting the workflow. If it comes to CROA and it's CDD, CDD is a partner that has actually agreed to utilize the application.
And they do agree.
So if we were to reroute the workflow to CDD, it would stay open and it would be under CDD's control. They'll complete it when they think it's completed, but it would essentially be out of our control as CROA, still open as an open work order until they decide to close it. So CDD really is our only partnering entity that we have. The county, when we reached out to them, they said, we have 8 different work order systems already. We're really not interested in implementing another work order system. But feel free to email us through our existing system that we have. So the way we were looking at that is, it's not a CROA responsibility. And a lot of times, things are always assumed that they belong to CROA as a responsibility. We have become a facilitator at that point. We facilitated the work order from us to the county. So it would be completed through our system, or we would have the statistics of open work orders like crazy. It would be completed, but with a note, we have successfully facilitated your request to Osceola County. And to follow this, you can contact them. Something along those lines. So any partnering entities, which right now is CCDD, stays open until they close it. Or if it's an entity that we're just facilitating and rerouting outside of the system, we would have to complete that and just put a note in there saying it's been rerouted to this authority to take care of.
Can I just ask one question regarding the provider of the service? We are paying that person, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a software company. I mean, it's like any other software. They sell it on how it operates. So here's what they do, and all the software companies do this. When you have an idea like this, you submit it to them as an enhancement request. They keep a database of enhancement requests, and if they have multiple communities that are utilizing this application that are looking for the same thing, they'll do it in a major or minor release when they do upgrades. So Patrick took it and actually submitted it, or is submitting it as an enhancement request, and we can go on there and look to see how many other, I believe, or at least follow up with them to find out if there's any traction with that. And if the company decides that they want to, update or make it better, then they'll do that. It's like Microsoft. They'll release a few cool things and then they'll hold back a few things. And
Yeah, well, I was just concerned because you get in this false sense it's closed, and it's not really closed.
right. And I think
whatever
from
we can do to just footnote it to say.
to make sure it's understood, it's completed from what CROA can do. We facilitated it to the appropriate party, so we will complete it from that standpoint.
So, and then beyond that, we'll just leave it up to communications that actually fall under the communications committee, right? The self-service.
As far as self-service, yeah, I think any enhancement to self-service, if there's another product that can tie into self-service that will help the way we provide services in Celebration, I think that those are the types of things that we'll continue to look for.
While we're on this particular subject, in the board pack here, as you read down through by department, it has 35.6% for CDD, and that maintenance is the next highest. The third one was Sonoma/service area. Does that mean our service areas?
That is our service area too.
Why are the two mixed? Sonoma should be entirely a separate.
Yeah.
entity on there.
Right. I think the way that we established that workflow was because of the way we manage it. We have the one person that oversees both of those areas. It's something Patrick and I can look at, though, to see if it makes sense for those to be separated, because we could still make it go to the same person.
The only reason why it'd be a good idea is that we would have control over the service areas. We wouldn't necessarily have control over Canoa.
Right. Well, and if you set it up how you want to see the information, so data in, data out. If you want the data to be separated, then that's something.
Well, that makes a difference too as to closed. If we're looking down our list of closed items, and half of this 21% of these under Sanoa service area is Sanoa, and the other half is us.
Right.
Well, we're going to see 50% more open right now because Sanoa might not have gotten to it.
Right.
So it gives us better data as a board. It doesn't give us extraneous data that doesn't apply to us. That we can have nothing. There's nothing we can do to fix it. Control it.
Any other discussion with regards to cell service? If Jack answers your concern?
Yes, it does. Can I just interject one thing here? I get the thing we've had this newspaper thing we're trying to do. With the recent paving of the streets here and the extra line that's been placed out there for the door closing line and broken line, I think it's imperative to get something out in the Friday Flash and on the newspaper that this is not a bike lane.
Yeah, for sure, big time.
I think we need
That's a
to-
big controversy.
Well, it is, because there's a portion of them, the portion of people that were involved that were pushing for a bike lane.
Right.
But the county specifically said when they went to the CDD meeting that it is not a bike lane.
Right.
It is absolutely a door buffer.
The general public doesn't understand that.
Correct.
And-
So to that point, I agree. You can just
What's the
reference.
issue though? If I'm biking out there, you should be biking in the street. If you're biking between the lines.
Probably bike lane is over 60 wide though.
Well,
No,
a
I'm
proper.
just saying, you're biking out there anyway.
they're biking out there,
Why is there a,
The concern is that if I'm biking between those two lines, somebody opens their door.
But you were biking there anyway.
you're biking there
But I mean,
anyway?
before the line was there, that's where you were biking.
I think that's why they didn't put bike lane in there,
Right.
because they don't want people, if it said bike lane, people would.
But people are going to assume that that's the safe spot for their bike.
County.
There's some people out, believe me, I've had people come up to me and say, isn't that a great bike lane we got now?
Well, and it doesn't keep going either. It stops when parking stops.
There's people out there that think it's a bike lane.
And Joe Dell from the county says specifically, we would not put a bike lane between a parking lane and a driving lane.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what we've created there.
They complain you don't.
Well,
I mean, I was driving along there today, and actually, part of the purpose is to slow people down. because
Right.
narrow
Yeah,
streets.
exactly, yeah.
Definitely, those people are slowing down.
Yeah.
They're following the lines better.
Very
If
tough.
I'm gonna bike, I mean, it's no different than if there was a bike lane or not. I'm riding by that car anyway, and I'm kind of keeping my eye.
You have that option, but I just think people have to understand the purpose is not for bikes.
So what you're asking then, Jack, is just a quick mention in the Friday Flash
Yeah,
maybe?
very much like Eric put on the answer to on the form.
And maybe even something in the newspaper too.
Yeah.
So the August paper is already in print, so.
Well, it's next month.
Next one, yeah.
At the end of the day, the county, all CDD or CROA can do is ask for stuff. But at the end of the day, the county is fully responsible for it, and they felt like that was the right thing to do. So it's not some CDD board member coming.
Oh, no.
I think it's a good idea, it's just as people are confused.
The problem is,
Yeah.
we need to end the confusion. Because the purpose
I
of strike is.
Wait, they repaved it, because we weren't scheduled till 2019 originally on that, when the county came to the CDD meeting, so in 2019,
We'll
the
have-
earliest, so thank goodness for elections and.
I think we'll have Celebration Boulevard in North Village paved in 2007.
Right next year.
Mhm.
I guess in an effort to try and stick with our agenda, but that's okay. I don't disagree with the fact that we probably should just have a blurb, but we can do that. And then future workshops. Leonard, which ones are still left on your list?
I have a whole list of them, but if anyone else has any additional ones, feel free to chime in.
Leonard, can you email these to us? If they're agreed upon by the group, just shoot.
Yeah, I'll just cut
Okay.
out some of the ones that I've,
They-
some of them, like we've already talked about couple of the assessment issues. One is policy on waiving fees on the assessment and the billing discounts.
So Leonard, why don't you, for everybody here, why don't you set up exactly what you have there and why? Kind of what why you're setting.
Just as I looked through some of where we spend our money, number one was legal fees and mediation fees. We've been in, I won't mention the condo association, but it is located in Orange Village. No, it's public knowledge that it's Georgetown. So far to date, we spent over $12,000 in legal fees and about $14,000 in staff time over 6 years. And while they are finally getting towards the end of their mediation, well, I can't tell exactly if they are going to finish their last things, but why did it drag out 6 years? Is this part of, are we doing things in the legal sense that we should be doing? What's our total legal cost per year? We have 2 different sets of attorneys that we use. Is it paying us back to have them doing certain things? Is there a return on investment? Things that we see are already close to bankruptcy or foreclosure, we may need to just pull back from and say we're through with it. We're not spending any more attorney's fees. There's no sense in either one of the attorneys looking it up and us paying a $15 fee every quarter for them to go through that and this type of thing. I mean, those aren't large amounts.
So just.
But it's basically, we need to look at our return on investment of what our legal fees are buying us, whether or not we have enough total legal fees to pull some of it in-house.
So just a quick clarification though, before you continue on there. So ultimately what you're asking is if general consensus from the board is that you would like to see one of our workshops specific to that.
Well, just as an add-on,
you would like, okay, so just kind of to speed up the process,
Yeah.
with everybody's general thought, would you like to include that in, on a workshop item?
I would say in general, yes. I would say some of these things could be a part, you mentioned a part of the budget issue. So to me, a lot of the issues that you have are revolve around our budget and how we spend money, and the time to do that is with our budget process. So is it part of that overall budget process, or is it items within the budget part of it?
Are they all financial matter, or?
No, some of them.
Yeah, that is just that one specific item he would like to specifically address. Is there, are we interested in having that as a workshop?
I think it makes sense to do it in budget.
As part of budget, I don't have a problem with. I mean, we need to examine everything in the budget in a fairly deep way anyway.
What do you guys think?
I don't have a problem with doing a workshop, but I also see in our packet a number of legal entries that are pending board action.
So you're saying you almost want to expand it and make one just on legal issues?
Well, just to knock out these issues, I mean, it asks, it's like pending since November 15th or July 15th, pending board, can we close this out for the board, or should we continue on with litigation and stuff like that? I don't think we ever address any of those items, do we?
I think that's part of what Melissa and Susan, they meet on a regular basis to talk about those that say, are they still open? And then.
And one other thing is, we are on our attorneys now to update those status reports much more clearly, because some of them have come and gone and they just haven't updated them.
Right.
So we are actually, Melissa is going through with a fine-tooth comb and reading those and contacting them now. Whereas that wasn't necessarily, she would glance through them, but didn't read them thoroughly, because they send us an email, we make decisions. Like, for instance, if somebody is, if we're doing lien foreclosure and somebody goes into bankruptcy, they notify us, and they automatically stop anything moving forward until that bankruptcy is cleared out, and then they come back to us and say, hey, do you want us to continue our lien foreclosure when they come out of bankruptcy? So I think some of those things are happening behind the scenes and are just good business rules when it comes to collections. But,
Well, let me give you some examples. Okay, last entry of this particular one was July 9th, 2015. Confirmed that Chapter 7 bankruptcy has been discharged. However, association's lien foreclosure case is at the sale stage. Please confirm if the association wishes to proceed with enforcement action for the judgment obtained in the coming violation case.
that's a
1 year
719.
old. That's 1 year old.
So just a second, but because he has a whole list and we're running out of time.
Oh, no,
So, yes.
I'll look at that, Jack.
Let me give some examples
I'll
of
just
what.
give you another one. September 11th, 2015. Please confirm if we can close this matter. Okay? The next one was October 15th, October 15th, 2015. Letter to association regarding considering not proceeding on covenant violation due to lien foreclosure, mortgage foreclosure. Received email from board regarding putting the case on hold for now, waiting to see outcome of both foreclosures. That's 7 months, 8 months.
How about if we, Steve asked me for a list of these, how about if we since we seem to have some concerns with legal, why don't we send it around as an email, and then you add your concerns as far as this, and then we'll see whether we have an hour's worth of work or 5 hours worth of work on it.
And then when I meet with Vanessa, we can determine when to put these in different workshops.
Just want to see if we can close this off.
I had one, I know we have a long list, but this one was kind of timely because I just happened to drive by the dog park to see how Davy's move was progressing. And everything's still there and it wasn't. And I ran into Rick Mansfield and I talked with Steve briefly, but he's going to call Rick tomorrow. But we had talked a lot, and we always do, about working with CDD. And in their last meeting, they mentioned that they were open to Davy moving to their area, to their like yard space and areas.
Fenced-in areas.
Leasing that out.
Just bringing it up because I didn't want to just go off on my own that, but Steve's going to call him tomorrow. But it just makes sense if they can move closer, if that's an option to look at, since CDD's open to it. And again, it's just communication. That was it. If that's okay. So.
Next thing that was on plans, time frame for completion. We've talked to Steve several times. This last month, in the president's meeting a week ago, we talked to him about how we had personally expected, as individual board members, certain things to have already been done from the April 7th drive around that we did, and they're in a schedule somewhere. But we, personally, and I believe you expressed the same thing, expected those things to have already been done. So basically, I just throw out some notes under there. Basically, time frame for completion on a regular set, some kind of protocol that maintenance needs to have to determine contracting out versus in-house repairs, and an evaluation of their time and amount of time going into that. And additional, on top of that, the facility cost of operation. Facility costs are everything they own tool-wise, the storage areas they use for that. You need to have a large grossed up amount, otherwise you can hire one person to be maintenance and they could constantly call out and, that needs painting, I'll call painters, have certain set of painters they use all the time. So that was the second issue, and you want me to stop for a moment?
Yeah, I guess in the sense for timeliness, can we just go ahead and just name off the ones you're thinking of?
The third one I have on here may or may not be anything anyone's interested in. Basically, in the board packet, we've made some changes to it here and there. But do we have too much information in there, or is it appropriate? There's certain required information we have in there. Is there any additional desired information in there that we should have, or not? That was just I went through this brainstorm one night. Don't tell me what's going to go out here,
I gotta tell you, that's slimmed the packet down a lot by about 150 pages. 200 mean,
Oh, no,
it'd be much.
I used to read it.
Really?
Oh, no, they used to, oh, no, they came down a lot.
I mean, so, I'm not sure
It's
where everybody goes.
147 now.
Yeah, we started saying four.
But it used to be a lot bigger.
I don't see any real comment, now I'm gonna knock that one off my list, if no one really,
I think
like,
that's something that we've been, I think we've been self-editing too as we've been going along, because I think you've been editing the packets as we go. Is that, so I think it's.
I know
like
Susan's
something-
implemented some things that I've talked with her about before, and we've gotten some things changed, but I didn't know if there was other things that are in there. A lot of times I go through and say, well, why is this here and here?
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. Next is staffing costs, and this goes right in, this has to be talked about during our budget. Cost per employee, how, if they're properly allocated to the proper departments. The CJC here and us below it, we need our, or percentage accommodation for who's doing how much work for whom at what level. I'll use one specific example. I want to say it's 6502-2. Is that a staffing code?
I don't know. It's just a number, but I know.
6:10 or 6:30? 6:30. 6:30.
All right, go ahead.
Anyhow, this particular code, back at the first of the year when I asked, I said, now, who gets paid under this set, who gets paid under here, et cetera, et cetera. This one had Teresa under it for service areas. As one of the employees gets paid under that particular code. Well, 3 months ago, at the CROA meeting, could have been 2 months ago, I hear Teresa up there telling Paige Pierce that she spends 10 to 12 hours a week working on Sonoma issues. Well, she's not a part of the CJC budget. She's down here on our budget.
You just save us more.
So what I'm trying to get to is you know, we could have stuff on the other end where we need to pay back that way, but without a proper accounting of who's spending how many hours doing what, we don't have that, and we never will. And the cost of those hours.
I guess just a question, in your list, do you have anything else? Because right now, just budget-wise, since we're coming up to the budget season.
This is all budget items.
So right now, under budget, we have basically your legal costs and our mediation, things like that, and you have staffing costs. Is there anything else in your budget?
Service area costs, again, are they properly allocated throughout?
Service area.
And we can go faster through these. I actually have brought this up a couple times before, is Artisan Park. Their clubhouse, the liquor license there is in CROA's name, and it should not be in CROA's name. It's by law, it's gotta be there.
Has to be because we're.
Yeah, it's got the same federal ID number as we have.
It could be under CCMC's name.
No, it can't.
But Artisan Park is part of CROA.
No, it can't.
So, let's back up then. What they need is a different FEIN down there. Because then you put it under there, all they have to do is get a new FEIN, federal ID number, switch Artisan Park into them. And
Separate tax return limit.
this concerns, no, they don't have to, they can still consolidate back to us. An FEIN doesn't mean anything. My wife's had some before and had no employees, okay? You never file returns if you don't have employees with the FEIN.
Right,
So the whole thing comes back to dram shop liability, which has to do with liquor liability law. What we have down there is an association that has its own manager down there, Steve DeMore's the manager down there, that sets the rules for the drinking, et cetera, how many people might get served and come away from there drunk. The dram shop laws basically go back to, I go somewhere, I go down to the clubhouse down there in Artisan Park, and I drink till I'm sloshed. And I come up here and I mow down 5 people in town. Well, in addition to suing me, they sued the people that served liquor, which in this case is us. And I don't think we should be part of that liability chain, and I think we need to remove it.
Can I just suggest one thing? This was signed about 6 years ago. We didn't like it then. We had to do it. Let's talk with Pat Watson. She might agree over the history on this. Okay? There is a specific reason that CROA was forced to do it.
That's the same thing with
So it's not an option to
anytime.
change it or something?
Well, I would say even with regards to any lawsuits that go through, we had one situation, which was before you came on the board. We were actually cited in the lawsuit, in the notice also because it falls under CROA. So I don't know that we need a workshop on it, but I do agree that maybe we could get some more history on it and include that in our budgeting process, in our budget thing. We can just kind of have an artisan, how can we make this work?
I agree with Linda. I mean, if we have, CROA has legal liability from this liquor license in Arts and Park. I have a real problem with that stuff. It's like, I mean, I understand that Arts and Park, they pay for all that stuff, but at the end of the day, there is a legal liability, which is with liquor, there's huge legal liability.
We are legally cited in everything. If Artisan is cited or is sued, CROA is sued automatically.
See, we're the master, they're our
Right.
subs.
Right.
So that is the reason why that it still falls back on CROA, because that's the master.
That being
But
said,
most you can't access
Right.
it, so it kind of, should we workshop it, you guys
I was-
explain to us? or
Still,
no?
it's still the master association. It's like the protocol.
I think Pat would have the answer.
she
Yeah,
does, yeah, so I think that just if we could get a,
Email
just
out?
get some, and, yeah, just get a, not even necessarily email, but maybe in one of our, when we're doing our budget workshop, perhaps we can have a quick little blurb on just, Artisan Park and how it fits into our budgeting process, because we ultimately were held liably, we are held, so maybe we can get more of an answer on that.
Sure.
And then we can determine if indeed we are able to separate and try legally to try and separate it a little bit more. But I recall having a similar conversation and we were immediately shut off, so.
I'm gonna throw out this next one that I'm gonna sort of pull it, but I want to just, basically the reserve study after the new one's issued. I have not gotten the 2013 reserve study, 2010 study yet. Susan didn't seem to have one electronically, and she's reached out, I guess, to the reserve partners, whoever that does ours.
Reserve advisors.
To get it, reserve advisors. And basically, it has to do with I see things coming through that are, and tomorrow night, as part of this, I'll be talking about a few of the things that say should come out of reserve versus our, what we call working capital, which should actually be like expansion capital or something like that called. But as part of the reserve study, basically, when you spend money that's not already set aside for that, you're basically borrowing money that's going to be paid back over the next 10 years or so, because by the time they do another reserve study in 3 years, they're just going to put that on. Actually, it's about a 13-year cycle. All of a sudden, they see, instead of spending $7,000 to refurbish this park, they spent $10,000 to refurbish the park, even though they only had budgeted $7 there. It's going to show up down the road as an automatic raise for a future board somewhere. So I would just like to, I want to go through, once I get to 2010, I can show you an example as to numerically if it's already been done some. If it hasn't, I just want to throw that one out.
Well, as a side note, though, with regards to the reserve study, I know, Paul, you had some specific questions as to why we are even funding the reserve study, because most of it is related to service areas and making sure some of their portion of it is back to the service areas. So maybe that can work back under our budget process, so we get a little bit of everything.
I spoke to Susan before they came in. I asked Susan when they did our study that they break out the CROA properties, the service area properties as separate entities.
They do.
And no, I mean, as far as the
As far as
billing
the
amount, as
billing
far as the
goes?
amount of time that they spend.
I talked to her about that, and she said there was really no way to determine that. I mean,
They have-
well, she does it all at once, and we get a price for all of it, and it's everything. So we could take it by line items, if there's 50 line items altogether, and 10 of them are service area A.
But I believe you talked to the lady that does it, and not their accounting people.
But here.
Because
The
they
way
go
to
through-
get, the way to get around that is take the bill and then separate the bill based on GLs. And charge back to the service areas the cost of that reserve study to their general ledgers. That's how you do it.
Right, well, we were talking about how do you fairly do that? And the other suggestion that Megan had, who was our engineer that was here, was perhaps it was based on total assets. So if service area A has total assets of 100,000 and service area B has assets of 200,000, then they would pay twice as much as service area A. And we'd proportionally figure it out based on the total value of all the assets
That's not
within
rocket
the
science.
reserve study.
That sounds like it would be a decent formula to do that allocation. As of right now, we've never done that allocation out. So when we have 461, no, 261 total houses that will be over in Spring Lake when it's finished. Units.
261, yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I had that number right out of my head.
Yeah.
We had 261, sorry, numbers are my thing. We have 261 units that will be over there finished, that are all part of the service area. And again, we did our service area study early to include that, a few months early to include that. But the additional cost of our study went up by $5,000 additional, I believe, over the prior. Do we have a bill for this year versus?
Yeah, we know what it is. I want to say it's like $19,700.
Okay, and we paid $15,000, I believe, for the one before that. So it went up by $4,700 to include Spring Lake, and whatever other things we might have put in. I mean, improvements to other parks here and things like that. So I just want those allocated properly as everything.
I just want to echo in terms of, and again, I think maybe the discussion's tomorrow, because that'll be our kickoff meeting, but I have several budget issues as well. But this one is probably one of the biggest ones to me, is that the whole issue of, our service areas versus CROA, and again, I've said it before 100 times, I shouldn't be subsidizing service areas shouldn't be subsidizing me. We need to make sure that all the costs, the proper area is paying for things. And like I look at the cell service calls, and there was almost as many cell service calls for service areas as there was for CROA. I see a lot of management time that is going to service areas. We've got the issue of the reserve study. So, that is a big issue, and we need to really, that really needs to be mapped out in terms of, do we have the systems in place to make sure that, the proper area is being expanded. We need to include that in the budget. So that is a big area of concern I have, especially, our service areas are growing. It's a huge operation. So that is a big overall issue for us.
We'll have 543 homes out of 4,321 when it's all built out in Spring Lake. Just so you have an idea of what the number is.
The number
Of course, that's maintenance-free
Service areas,
living.
right.
The number under service area.
It'll be 543 when Spring Lake is built out. And that doesn't include the 613 at Artisan Park.
So just to try and, again, get back to the wrapping this up. So we can go ahead and then.
That can go under budget.
Like I said, so we can just add that whole thing under budget. And we've got, if I remember correctly too, Steve, the budget process takes time, takes a couple meetings anyhow.
It's going to take a couple months for us to pull all the information together. So if we need to do a halfway through budget I mean, we won't have all the numbers in August, but we could at least have conversations.
And there's stuff that
and
you're gonna need to be getting answers for anyhow.
yeah, after our meeting tomorrow, which again, it's, I hope there's no expectations of all these numbers tomorrow. It's really just the worksheet layout of, yeah, how we're gonna start going through the process. Right.
There
Well,
are zero
but,
numbers.
yeah, so what you're talking about right now are things that I think could help us as we're working through the budget process over the next few months.
Then I had just two other things.
Which is why I said email would be, I mean, I'm writing, taking notes too, but if you could email them to me too, just to make
Okay,
sure.
well, I've got some of them, so I'll go through and redo this, what I've got through here. This one has to do with the Empower contract. And whether we need to review or talk about that particular contract.
The what contract?
Empower.
Empower Group.
Empower.
Empower.
The group that, in fact, we should just talk about that sometime. Just, you know, I'm talking about a fairly short conversation, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And happened to actually, when I was running through the property taxes, I noticed that the Sienna condo, I don't know if we paid any property taxes down there, but I think we didn't pay last year's taxes down there.
We are, typically you don't pay any real estate taxes, just as you're not making any mortgage payments. We want somebody else to take title.
I know, but we haven't on, I'm talking about the Sienna condo
I
in
know.
particular.
Right,
So we've never paid any taxes on it yet.
no.
So are they to the point of tax foreclosure also then?
Usually that's about 3 years.
Is it, okay.
You're not required to
No.
pay it,
So, well, some of this is information I don't have yet, and that's why I just wanted to bring it up and see if anyone else had an interest in that particular contract. Again, whether we had taxes on CCD taxes, and there was talk about it not going through. When I read the contract, one of the problems, and it said it never went through because the condo people never approved it. And as I read the contract from Empower, it appears that Empower pays us 12 months worth of assessments, but they only have to pay the condo association 3 months. And that may be why it never got approved. In other words, they were saying, we're giving up 9 months worth of assessments that we can eventually collect on the back end of this thing. So if that's what held it up, we need to seriously think about that particular item or talk to the condo people down there and say, why didn't you approve this? And get a firm answer. I mean, I don't know, but I can give their management company a call and say, why did the board, or top whoever's on the board down there, and say, why didn't you approve? Evidently, they had to approve us transferring.
They had to approve the contract with Empower, just as we have already approved Empower. And
Because it was cutting 9 months of their condo fees back out, is why they had to approve it. And had we not tried to take that 9 months away from them and put it into Empower immediately, it could have been rented during this period. We could have already received our year's worth of assessments on it, and the condo association would be ahead also.
So, and just to clarify exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
I
Susan?
understand what you're
Okay.
saying,
I
but
guess I'm trying to figure out how this works into, for a workshop. Are you looking for a workshop on, with regards to Empower specifically? Or are you
Many
looking
of our
for a
straight
workshop?
contracts.
Okay, we did that didn't we do a workshop on that last year, just going through all of our contracts? Did you remember that?
We wanted to, we don't think we got to it unless I don't think I missed a meeting.
And one
We
part of
talked
this,
about it. I don't think we got to it.
if I may, trash contract, of your $1,199.16 that a regular homeowner will pay on a yearly basis, 287.76 of that is trash, which is 24% of the actual bill we send out on a yearly basis. We absorb all the losses. If we go through 2 or 3 years and someone doesn't pay assessments to us, the trash people still get their money.
That's the way the contract's written.
I understand how it's written, yeah.
No, but he provides service to the entire community. It's up to us to collect the money.
I understand how it's written. The question is, we have other methods to mitigate those losses, such as CDD. If CDD ran that contract, they could add the $287.76 onto their ad valorem tax.
But how's CDD going? They're going to take over the trash?
That would fall under their purview of being able to do it. And then CDD doesn't lose money because it's a taxable thing. Taxes never go away.
What's the difference whether, I mean, all of this is a contract or something, so the issue, the thing with CDD is with the ad valorem is that you get 100%, that's collected 100%. So I would agree with Leonard in general, any kind of contract you have, if we're looking at CROA doing it and having 10% people not pay, and with the CDD, with it being a part of the tax bill, that is 100% collected. So if it's a simple thing, I mean, it's not something that CROA, we spend
The
a
trash
lot of time
is
on.
something the homeowners deal with, and CDD doesn't really deal with the homeowner properties.
But do you want, so we should have a contract.
Sure they-
Shop separate.
Yeah, I've got it written down.
Yeah, just contracts in general.
Is that it?
Then I've got-
You have 6 more pages because.
I've got one more thing left. And it's simple. It's simple. Well, it's going to have a lot of discussion, but my end of it's simple. I'm going to read this and then throw it out there. The next one is the Civic Corridor Road. We still don't have an answer as far as the cost going in up there.
Well, we gotta talk to the golf course and that's.
No, I understand we have a lot of things to do that way. But in addition to that, again, I haven't seen this design of where our parking's gonna be up there and things like that. I'm not against putting 3 fields in there, et cetera, et cetera. I think we should look and see where placement of things up there might be better achieved by running the road just through golf course property and ending it there. Then we have our driveway coming in there for the parking lot. And having the parking lot right at the beginning of Lot E, at the end, as soon as you get Lot D to the golf course.
Yeah,
Lot E,
that's the way it's designed, is to have the parking lot first, and then the concession
so we
storage
don't have to have
restroom,
road
and
on
then
our
the
property, you only have to get.
It would be to the
across
edge,
golf
right,
course.
to
Then
the
we're gonna have
property.
driveway in there, and that's
Right.
gonna be,
Yeah, the challenge is just getting it through the golf course, and then who's gonna pay for it?
and I guess the only other part of that is, right now, the road as it stands, it's been done so far, we're paying that on a 5-year balloon note, a 15-year amortization, so we've got a balloon payment in 2020 of $238,000. As long as we have that in our projections going out of the capital enhancement.
We do. We have it as,
capital-
as paying it off completely at the end of 5 years. Or you could go through the refinance process, I believe. But, we have that
Well,
as
it's
part
not
of it.
financed though, and if we actually finance something, what we did is we deferred taxes.
Right.
Through an agreement.
Sure.
Actually,
But
I think CDD is financed it for us.
they did. But essentially, it's, I think the terminology is probably correct,
The
but
contract was negotiated between the board president, I believe, and the CDD CDD is how it came about, correct?
Yeah.
Right, well, the CDD could have assessed us what they wanted to based off of, they did a formula percentage. And so the board president, our attorney, we went to the meeting and talked to them about reducing the amount of percentage that we would pay, and then talked to them a little bit about the 5-year amortization, the balloon.
Yeah, but it's not a loan, it's a tax structure.
It's just that, it's just a lower amount of payment.
No, because to do a loan, the mortgage type thing on that would be.
That was the CDD's argument as they were discussing what would be paid back, is that if they were to go out and finance it, that, what factors would come into play for that. So.
Was there something specific that you wanted to have addressed in the workshop?
No, I just think looking at that area one more time on the placement of things up through there.
Well, I think, is it possible maybe, because I think that it would be nice to have like a recap of where we're at with the dog park in the civic corridor, kind of just maybe a tag as a kind of a, here's where we're at, this is what this is what our plan is, and then maybe run through, because a lot of people have not seen kind of what the final designs are as projected, so maybe we can add that. That would be
that's
very
fine.
timely, and that would include the road, and we can discuss budgeting issues. I think would fall under your contracts and your budgeting would be the second part of that. Would you agree? that's contracts is its own entity. But I'm talking about the balloon, when you're talking about balloon payments and loans and things like that, I think that falls more under the budget process.
I think the loan was 3%.
It was pretty, it was a good rate, it was a good rate. Was there, any other items that you're done, correct?
I'm finished. I apologize.
Give him a round of applause.
So,
Those are all good things, he's saving money for everybody.
I guess if for the sake of what you guys need to do now, is there any clarification with regards to this rather lengthy workshop that was?
You will have all of that tomorrow night by 6, right?
Is there any clarification?
Right.
Clarification that you need?
That was the deal when we said we'd put this workshop the day before the board meeting, that it wasn't going to be everything turn around the next day. I think that, Leonard, if you could, again, send an email of the items, and then I'll compare them to make sure we all have our notes lined up correctly. And then I think it comes down to when we do our regular president meetings, just scheduling and when we want to do them and getting them put together.
As a side note with regards to the meeting, we're having our meeting next Wednesday, 10 o'clock. Is there anybody that wanted to attend that one with me?
I'm always free Wednesday mornings.
Is there,
Wednesday.
is there anybody else?
I can come, but I'll have 6 grandchildren with me.
Oh, that's your board, no, keep them at home.
Paul, are you interested?
Paul, did anybody want to go to one of these?
Millions in Ocala.
It's next Wednesday.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna talk, I mean, a lot of my questions are gonna come with budget, so we're gonna be talking about just that.
I don't think we will,
Just
so.
how we evolve the budget, how we do a budget.
Yeah.
Participate in.
Okay, so,
One other workshop that we talked about, I don't know what's discussed, was about the legal issues with the election. So at some point in time, we need to do that.
we wanted to do that sooner rather than later.
Right.
That was actually, I think, on our list for sooner rather than later.
It's got to be done for the next election.
Correct, that's why we, yeah. Anything else? For the motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Where's Eric? Come on.
Well, actually, he texted me, so.
Was he listening at all?
He was in meetings too, and he just said, oh, I didn't realize that we were still on. Do you need to call in? And I said, no, we're just about done, so.
All right, look, the deal is tomorrow night. Get us done by 7:30.